Welcome to Embody Your True Color Love, a place where we unlock the power of love and find acceptance, growth, and self discovery. I'm Pratima Prashanjit. Do you ever find yourself in a group where everyone is talking about shoes, handbags, the perfect candle scent to match their living room, investing in the stock market, or landing a higher paying job, while all you want to talk about is getting morning sunlight and dry body brushing and enjoying afternoon tea? If you've answered yes, wonderful, congratulations. You might be on the path to loneliness. You may not notice it yet, but our collective tiny habits have resulted in a loneliness pandemic. It lurks in our lives, in our relationships, careers, and communities. Your child's anxiety and depression are manifestations of loneliness. Your disconnection in intimacy with your partner is a manifestation of loneliness. Your conflicts, anger, and rage with your parents are manifestations of loneliness. Even turning down your friend's posh party invitation can be a manifestation of loneliness. And there is a difference between being alone and being lonely. Being alone means everyone is out for the weekend while you're home by yourself. Being lonely means that everyone is there with you in a room, but you feel unseen, unheard, unmet, and misunderstood, invisible. You can be surrounded by a partner or a group of friends and still feel lonely. I've experienced loneliness in my life without even realizing it. One Friday night, I was lying in bed trying to fall asleep while my then partner was out with his friends. When he returned, I heard him talking and suddenly felt an urge to leave. Still in my pajamas, I sneaked out through the back door and went onto the roof. It was just after 10 o'clock. I found a ledge near some solar panels and pipes, and I sat there for almost an hour, crying. I didn't know why I was crying, which made me cry even more. I remember telling myself, I don't belong here. After wiping my tears, I went back to our room and overheard my partner calling out for me, worried. I pretended to sneak up on him, laughing as if we were playing hide and seek. At that time, I was in a happy and fulfilling relationship, and my career was growing. To this day, I've never told him about that night. Looking back, I realized that I was experiencing loneliness stemming from a disconnection from my family, friends, culture, traditions, and home. I felt ungrounded and unsafe, which manifested as loneliness. Being away from home for too long created a sense of fear and insecurity. I often hear people say when they travel overseas, they can't stay any longer than 5 days and that they can't wait to return home to eat their kind of food. In other cases, people often take visits to their childhood home, their hometown, which helps them to stay grounded. This is where customs, culture, and traditions help to shape our sense of safety and holistic well-being. The root of the problem also, by cultivating meaningful social connections. These customs formed the integral daily routine in people's lives. Today, research on the brain highlights how starting a morning routine affects neuroplasticity. This is where the brain's extraordinary ability to adjust, adapt, and mold itself into response to experiences, as well as through repetitions and intentions. So if you tend to create an experience of scarcity and fear in your life based on your inner dialogue, your brain will mirror everything and everyone around you as fearsome and lacking. This is what people mean by being in fight or flight mode. Conversely, if you create or cultivate a sense of abundance and peace and compassion. Your brain will reflect this by perceiving everyone and everything as safe and kind. This state triggers your happy hormones, your daily dose: dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. Your brain is like an obedient child. Whatever you tell it to do and experience, it will do just. The brain cannot distinguish between a real physical experience and one that is vividly imagined. This is why meditation, mindfulness, and visualization are essential tools for overcoming loneliness. Monks who practice these routines are often considered the happiest people on earth. Growing up, the daily routines in my community included waking up early, taking a bath, praying and meditating at the altar, making offerings and spending time in nature, getting the sunlight, taking a walk at the beach. These practices fostered a strong sense of community and safety. Neighbors were like family, and it was common to leave your kids with a neighbor while running errands. It was a safe haven. To change our experience of the world, we need to start changing our habits. Learning to label these events allows you to see how well you've made or broken your connection with the people you love, a partner, a friend, or a family member, due to the loneliness that they have experienced. Let's say you ask your partner to watch a movie with you. You're getting the blanket, closing the blinds, and lighting the candle to set the mood for a movie night. The movie starts, it has your interest, and you look over at your partner, but he's on his phone. How does that make you feel? Your desire for a shared experience of enjoying Dune Part 2, love the film by the way, isn't being met. There was a certain point in my life when I had no idea what I wanted to do. And I don't like to bother people. So I would sit in my corner and hope my loneliness would lead me to something inspiring. During that phase, the last thing you want to hear someone say is, "So, what do you do? What is your intention?" When you're asked either of those questions, it takes your loneliness to loneliness 2.0. Your thoughts and mind turn into, that gif of the Simpsons character stepping out of the bushes, pauses, and then he sinking back into the wall of bushes? That's how it feels. It feels like you're glued to the ground in the fast lane of life, while the people in that lane who seem to have their life, career, and relationships figured out are yelling at you to keep up, sonny. You then start to question your own values and self-worth. What am I doing here? I'm hopeless. It's too late for me now. Why even bother? With this feeling of loneliness, you have the urge to turn it into a conflict, either inward, by sabotaging your self-worth, values, and purpose, or outward by criticizing your friends, family, partner, beliefs, neighbors, the government, and potentially anyone or anything your mind and thoughts come into contact with. You no longer feel safe. Feeling a sense of safety is what you want to strive for in your wellness journey. As a matter of fact, feeling safe forms the basis of the works by neuroscientists, psychologists, psychiatrists, and spiritual leaders. If you ever find yourself at this junction in your life, don't question your worth. Instead, question the people around you and your circle of friends. Ask yourself, how does my purpose align with the values of this group? Is my intention aligned with the shared experiences of this group? Do I feel needed, seen, heard, and understood in this group? Do I feel safe and comfortable sharing my concerns with this group? How does everyone's intention in this group add value to my life? More than ever, these are the questions we're eager to be asked rather than What's new with you? Where do you work? How much money do you make? Unless your job description entails sitting at a cubicle and staring at screens all day or something similar, people don't like to share the details of their work and salary. This is a simple yet profound practice of mindfulness to foster meaningful connections with friends, family, and partner or a partner. If there is one thing we learned from the COVID-19 pandemic, it is that nothing in life is more worthwhile than meaningful connections, finding your life's purpose and mindfulness. For many of us who were alone but not lonely in lockdown, we found comfort and safety through the bonds we share with the friends and family, even while apart. One of my closest friends and I share a friendship that is unique in many ways. We have known each other since high school, went to university together, and attended dance school together. We both pursued careers in different paths and directions. I watched her endure all of our heartbreaks and celebrated all of our triumphs. She has been there with me in my darkest and happiest moments. I don't see her or hear from her every day, week, month, or even every year. But when we do see each other, it's like we can't get enough of each other. We try to fit all of our life's episodes into that 1 hour we have together. And that is enough. Over the years, I've learned to mirror the kindness, love, and compassion that she has given me to others around me. As I was preparing this episode, I wanted to formulate a mindfulness practice to share with you for fostering deeper relationships and healing purposes. So I came up with Bonding Boost, a mindfulness practice to foster deeper relationships. Bonding Boost number 1, listen actively. When someone is sharing something with you, don't turn it into a cue to talk about yourself. You know those times when you're talking about a topic that interests you and then the person shifts the conversation to themselves, overshadowing your topic? That's not healing. Bonding Boost number 2, show genuine interests. Ask questions about others' interests, even if they aren't your interests. Transparency is healing. Sharing your flaws with someone brings authenticity to the bond and allows the other person to feel safe and comfortable sharing their concerns. We are all flawed. It is our flaws that bring out our beauty by inspiring changes in the lives of the people around us. Bonding Boost number 3. Create the experience for the connection you want. This is a very important social connection concept that took me a while to grasp. Growing up, I never liked parties, clubbing, or crowds in general. I judged these setups as spaces for people to show off who went with whom, who wore what, and who was there. That perception changed when I worked in sales and marketing. I met 2 promoters who they would always call the office and bother me for sponsorships. And I sat with them in a few meetings and they always asked why I never attended any of these events. I explained that I don't like crowds and partying. One of the promoters said something that changed my entire mindset about people and events. He said that people don't host events for partying. They host them so that people can meet, connect, and share a common interest. I thought that was so inspiring. If you want to have a meaningful connections, then host a party where everyone dresses in costumes of your choice and talks about a topic of your choice. Nowadays, events are often so open-ended that attendees sit there not knowing what to say and everyone's in their own corner doing their own thing. This creates a looseness in the gathering and no shared interest and definitely no meaningful connection. I remember in my childhood, the women in the community would host tea parties for the kids and the grown-ups too. The girls would wear their pretty frocks, and there would be games like push hand in bags where you would win prizes and, lots of pastries. This is quite similar to a baby shower. There is so much structure in a baby shower. If it's a boy, you would wear blue, and you're going there to add to the experience of talking about everything you know about the soon to be parents. This makes the event a shared experience with a meaningful connection. Bonding boost number 4: celebrate people's accomplishments and share compliments. When you acknowledge someone, it's not really the object she has manifested that is being celebrated, but every inner and outer critic she endured to realize her intention. This is the true reward. By practicing these habits, you can create beauty and abundance inside out with those around you by cultivating love, empathy, and compassion. Remember those people in the fast lane of life who seem to have everything figured out? Their behaviors and attitudes often portray perfectionism. But what perfectionists aren't aware of is that the downside of perfectionism is loneliness. So if you go back to the example with the perfectionist and the other person who's glued to the ground, they're both on the fast lane and enduring their own sheer shape and form of loneliness. The perfectionist is so busy contemplating where to put the paprika that she doesn't bother with seeing, hearing, and understanding the needs of the person glued to the ground. And many of us are guilty of this. A classic example of this is neglecting your not so established longtime friends to join a new group of people whose main value is making more money and who everyone knows. Not only have you neglected your friends, but this is a plain example of self-neglect. When you fail to label this habit, it can show up in events in our lives that cause pain and suffering to the people who value us and hold us closest to their hearts, ultimately leading us to loneliness. When you take the time to look at these matters closely, you will be able to see that we're all connected by the shared experience of suffering and loneliness. And when we learn to heal ourselves through our habits, we gradually heal the people around us. And here is the birthplace of purpose. When you stray too far from your urges, you're bound to be isolated from your band. When you look at our history, having a sense of community with meaningful connections and shared values was the system that sustained cultures millennia after millennia. And that covers physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and biological sustenance. It is what grounds us. Neurologically, physical connection provides the environment for feeling safe to flourish, which releases oxytocin, the hormone that promotes bond and connection. Thank you for listening to Embody Your True Color Love. If you haven't already, subscribe, rate, and share your review of our podcast. Your feedback helps our podcast extend its healing reach on a global scale. Connect with me on our social media platforms at Zappa Farms. You can find all of the links in the show notes below. I eagerly anticipate hearing your stories each time, and I'm open to suggestions for future topics to explore. Your engagement fuels our journey together.